Looking at a little bit bigger block than normal, but it's a pretty awesome one. 1 Nephi 4:32 through 37, and it came to pass that I spake with him being Zoram, that if he would hearken unto my words, as the Lord liveth and as I live, even so that if he would hearken unto our words, we would spare his life. And I spake unto him even with an oath, that he need not fear, that he should be a free man like unto us, if he would go down in the wilderness with us. And I also spake unto him, saying, Surely the Lord hath commanded us to do this thing, and shall we not be diligent in keeping the commandments of the Lord? Therefore, if thou wilt go down into the wilderness to my father, thou shalt have place with us. And it came to pass that Zoram did take courage at the words which I spake. Now Zoram was the name of the servant, and he promised that he would go down into the wilderness unto our father. Yea, he also made an oath unto us that he would tarry with us from that time forth. Now we were desirous that he should tarry with us for this cause, that the Jews might not know concerning our flight into the wilderness, lest they should pursue us and destroy us. And it came to pass that when Zoram had made an oath unto us, our fears did cease concerning him. We're going to talk about this incredibly complex block of scriptures in terms of Hebraistic literary patterns. The first thing that we see is an oath. Now this is from Hugh Nibley. He says, Hardly will an Arab break this oath, even if his life be in jeopardy, for there is nothing stronger and nothing more sacred than the oath among the nomads and even the city Arabs, if it be exacted under special conditions. Woe to him who swears falsely. His social standing will be damaged and his reputation ruined. No one will receive his testimony, even if it is true, and he must also pay a money fine. This is from chapter 10 of the Approach to the Book of Mormon. But not every oath will do. To be most binding and solemn, an oath should be by the life of something, even if it be but a blade of grass. The only oath more awful than that, by my life, or less commonly by the life of my head, is the Wa Hayat Allah, by the life of God, or as the Lord liveth, the exact Arabic equivalent of the ancient Hebrew Hai Elohim. Today it is glibly employed by the city riffraff, but anciently it was an awful thing, as it still is among the desert people. I confirm my answer in the Bedouin wise, says Dowdy. By his life, he said, well, swear by the life of Allah. I answered, among both Arabs and Jews, says Rosenblatt, an oath without God's name is no oath, while in both Jewish and Mohammedan sources, oaths by the life of God are frequent. So we see that the only way that Nephi could possibly have pacified the struggling Zoram in an instant was to utter the one oath that no man would dream of breaking, the most solemn of all oaths to the Semite, as the Lord liveth and as I live. So in Hebrew, this is Hai Elohim. That is the oath. It's that short. That's exactly what they know to say. That's exactly what they know means, an irrevocable oath that for them is an unbreakable promise that you make. In Western culture, that would seem very foreign to Joseph Smith on the Western frontier, just 100 years removed from the Salem witch trials. This is not a concept that is easily understood by an American who didn't grow up around this culture, and especially by one that doesn't speak Hebrew and have any understanding of these oaths and how common they were and how this phrase was used. The second part of this complex scripture block is there's a built-in chiasm within the scripture block. 1 Nephi 4:33 through 35, and I spake unto him even with an oath, that is A. Now you go down to verse 35, the way that it finishes, at the words which I spake. Then the B, that he need not fear, back down to 35, and it came to pass that Zoram did take courage. Now that's the one that is a stretch, but if you look up courage, there's about 10 different words for courage in Hebrew, and one of them means not fear. That phrase could have just as easily been translated into English, and it came to pass that Zoram did not fear. So then we have the C, the D, the E, the F, a very complex chain of about 7 different stanzas creating a chiasm, and the center of the chiasm is the same as the center of the previous chiasm used by Nephi, to go and do, to be diligent, to go do this thing. That's the center of Nephi's chiasm in both instances. So the percentage chance using statistical analysis by Newton's calculations of this being intentional is 98.95%, and that doesn't even take into account the fact that the previous chiasm had the exact same central message as this one, which I think would make both of them even higher percentage chance of being intentionally created. So what does this mean? This means that either Joseph Smith had an unbelievable understanding of Hebrew literature, Hebrew oaths, Hebrew customs and culture that no one else in frontier America had, that he knew the Hebrew phrase that was used to make the most solemn of all oaths, and he knew how to write it in a poetic form as would be considered poetic by a Arab Bedouin, or he was actually translating by the gift and power of God from an ancient text that was written by somebody who understood the language and culture of the ancient ancestors from the Middle East.